Hello. Welcome to the first few chapters of Siren Stones. This is a story I've personally written and come up with all on my own. For what you can look at, there's a candle burning, and what you can hear is music in the background by Sir composer Adrian Vin Zieglers. Here we go. Chapter 1 The New World. The cold, damp steel, the piercing of blades meeting flesh and sinew, followed by the flow of crimson rivers. The sensation of cold, salty air filled the lungs of the knights, their heads filled with confusion, as the last memory they all had was their very own gruesome deaths by the side of their grand king. The first to see the light of day was Alexander. He coughed up some dust and felt the salty air enter his lungs. It stung, like alcohol in a cut. He lifted his scarred arm and hand to push away the stone cover of his sarcophagus. It fell and cracked in half on the floor. The light blinded Alexander even with the eyes of a griffin are harmed by sunlight. Alexander's armor fell off his body. It was iron, and the saltwater mist seemed to have rusted it away into a useless form. The once proud iron armor of the royal guards now crumbled to dust amidst the sea's mist. His eyes adjusted to the sun, and he could see the world around him, the greenery that was growing with lush and vast. It covered the stone ruins of the tomb. A seemingly large earthquake or magical endeavor has cracked the whole cliffside in half. Alexander's room was cracked in half, and he could see the other side was a few miles across. The sun shined down from the center. He felt the warm sun in his face. He almost felt his sadness disappear for a moment, until the sound of a rock moving interrupted his moment of bliss. "Hello? Alexander? Hunter? Anybody?" the small pitched voice cried from her tomb. Alexander sighed. "Yeah, I'm here, Nico." "Help me!" she whined while smacking the top of her tomb with her small hands. Alexander grabbed the lid and pushed it off her sarcophagus with some effort. His strength appeared to still be with him. The small-framed caitiff rose from her tomb. As she raised her leather armor and iron armor rotted off, leaving her naked, fluff exposed. "Ah!" She covered herself with her tail and slapped Alexander. "Ow. Hey, I've lost my armor too." He's slightly irritated by this.
Well, I never wanted you to see me naked like this.
Oh, gods. Alexander smacked his head with his hand and sighed. "Look, it's okay." He grabs and wraps the now soft tapestries that decorated the halls, now the ground. He lifts it up and tears it into a form of clothing. "Here, wear this." He puts on his makeshift clothing and hands one to Nico, too. The others,
The others will need some.
except Hunter.
Oh, yeah, nothing down there.
The silence was broken by the crunching of sandstone being broken like ice under a climber's boot. The dark smoke crafted hand emerges from the stone coffin as the hulking 6'5" monster emerges, breaking the coffin the rest of the way, though. The dust and pebbles fell onto the frame only to bounce off as they hit the earth. He seemed distorted as the white clouds that were his eyes had yet to form. As his eyes were tightly shut, his body appeared. This, his eyes appeared, the seemingly endless void of white being a drastic contrast to the rest of his pure black smoke-based body. "Where are we?" Hunter asked while holding his head. "We don't truly know. We all woke in coffins, though I'd say a tomb of some kind," Alexander said with the bluntness of a hammer.
But we're not dead. Why did the king put us here?
The small white cat had stopped mid-sentence, as if to... well, as if somebody had stolen the air directly from her small lungs. "What of the king?" They stood in silence, heads filled with confusion and mad ideas. What had happened to them? Where the king was, and why their once gallant and magnificent armor was now rusted in a pile of scraps. The party grabbed all of their old weapons. Alexander's axe he never named, Nico's bows and daggers, which she cleaned with more of her fur, and Hunter's poleaxe that had once tasted criminal blood regularly. The path they would see was a doorway which led down a set of stairs which seemed to have been singed and burned. Soot and ash caked the hallway, and the stairs felt warm. Having no other way to go, they moved down the stairs. Nico suddenly raised her small hand from the back.
Wait a second.
What? Alexander asked with slight irritation.
I smell fire and magic.
They all tensed up. Magic was a thing none of them even knew, and even a novice could be dangerous to someone poorly equipped or out of practice. They were both. They moved on, remembering their old formation in small halls. Hunter was the middle with a poleaxe he could reach over, and Alexander could be in the front with his smaller axe. Nico could shoot past them. They walked slowly, the heat growing. If they had not been almost naked, they would be sweating, like they were in a desert.
It's up ahead,
She said with a sniff. Ready yourself, Alex. Worry for yourself, Hunter. No armor can help you right now. They entered a corridor with charred corpses and blackened skeletons in random places throughout. Most had clearly been killed mid-motion or while attempting to block. The center of the room was a beam of pure flame. Its obsidian features outlined the inner inferno of magic, a flame construct. Its feminine figure danced in the air as it floated around. The party backed off and decided how to dispatch or run past it. A frontal attack would be rash, but it might catch it off guard. Hunter wasn't a tactical genius, but he could think critically. Not a bad plan, but I have a better one. Same strategy for that Pishka we battled a year ago. As those words left the mouth of Alexander, Nico knew what had to be done. It was a certain technique created years ago. They all nodded and understood what they needed to do. Nico snuck into the room as best she could. Her rusted armor and tattered rags didn't help her as she snuck inside. The flaming figure whipped around like a dancer does, with a flourishing turn. As it turned, sparks fly from its hand. The sparks turn to cinders, and cinders turn to fire. Nico rolls out of the way, and some of the fluff on her tail gets burnt. She stands and yells at it.
Stupid flame construct! Burns are not easy to get out of fur!
As she yells, Hunter rushes it from behind and raises the rusted poleaxe down upon the abomination. He glides across the floor to avoid and dodges right into the spear of Alexander. This works far too well, Alexander says with slight disappointment and a sigh. The flame construct screeches in pain as it hurls itself from the long braid of the short spear. It bleeds out lava that hardens into igneous rock as it lands. Right. Go on, Nico. End it. Hunter shouts as Nico stumbles towards the creature. It stumbles towards Hunter in return. Nico throws one dagger into its back of its knee and slices the nape of its neck with a short sword. The creature's head leans forward and falls off. The body hardens almost instantly into a statue-like form. They all sigh. A sigh of relief. The heat and light from the construct goes away. The soot in the room blows around from the winds, and the party relaxes. These things are normally the size of a finch. This form is unnatural and foul, Nico says, trying to sound smart. You have a point. The lava blood isn't normal either, Alexander adds. It's dead now. No more needs to be said. Hunter ends the conversation. Nico sees something in the back of its neck. It's shiny. It glows a faint reddish orange. What's this? She pulls it out of the neck. It's warm and pulsates with powerful magic energy in her small hand. Alexander grabs it and looks at it closely. He sees it's slightly opaque, and it seems to be seething with inner flame. No idea, but it's powerful. Very powerful. Hunter, I trust you with this more than either of us. Nico grumbles as she hands the small magic rock to Hunter. As they nod in silent understanding, they hear footsteps from beyond. A small hallway leads down into a bright, warm forest of some kind. Turning to the hall, they all rearm and get ready to proceed down the hall. Chapter 2. A face, yet so familiar. Wind blew green oak and maple leaves across the stairwell to the feet of the group. They all started to slowly move forward. Alexander leads with Hunter in the center and Nico in the back. This formation was what they always did in small corridors and spaces. As the winds grow in power, the sun also starts to feel more bright and welcoming. Their eyes burn at the direct sunlight as they emerge. They all squint and walk out into a lush forest of green and tall trees, and low bushes and large boulders covered in moss. Where are we? All of them speak at once with varying emotions. They begin to walk out. Hunter instantly grabs a sturdy branch instead of the rusted polearm. Let's hope that stick isn't the best weapon we find, Alexander says. I hope it is. Finding a perfect sword or an axe in the middle of a forest is not a good thing, Hunter replies as he looks around. Nico sniffs the air and looks around. Alexander does as well, but he can't smell the same scents. He does, however, see deer tracks that have faded after a few several yards. His griffin eyes are great at tracking other creatures and spotting things far away, such as deer tracks that seem fresh, just not as fresh as the goblin tracks aside from them. Goblins hunt in these woods. Did the king stop hiring goblin slayers? Not a pretty line of work. There might not be anyone who wants to hunt them anymore. They pay them more. Yell at our lord, not me. Nico and Alexander bicker. After a short disagreement, they start walking towards the tracks. They notice a set of boot prints in the mud as well. Silently, they agree to follow the prints, in hopes of finding the hunter alive so he can help. We're going to cut it off here, as I can't record anymore. YouTube won't allow me. I have no idea if anyone will ever see this or if they even care, but if you do and you enjoy it, remember to leave a like. Doesn't matter if you dislike, I guess, anymore, but if you don't like it, put one of those too. Put a comment down, and, well, if you enjoyed it enough, I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful night. You know what? That's it better.